Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures. Used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
Three little words.
You're welcome to the movie and you're welcome to our gem pursuit. Matthew here, and with me as always is my trusty co-host Elise. Elise, how are you?
Hello, Matthew, and welcome everyone to our latest episode.
This is part 4 of our series of mini episode covering some of the Cartier pieces currently on display at the V&A exhibition in London. This week we are taking a look at the Gloria Swanson diamond and rock crystal cuffs. So Elise, if you're ready, let's get straight into it.
Welcome to the audio guide for the Cartier exhibit located in London at the V&A Museum. If you're following along live in the exhibit, we'll give you the location of today's amazing item. However, should you be afar, don't fret. Our show notes have pictures and links so you can follow along just as well. For those following along, make your way to the film room, which is the 8th gallery from the start. Once you're in the gallery, look at the movie screen and then turn to your left-hand side. In the cabinet along the wall, you'll come across 2 rock crystal bracelets. Once you're situated, let's get started.
Lisa, I was very excited about this episode, not only because it meant that we had to go to London originally, but also because rock crystal is actually one of my favourite gemstones to use in jewellery. A lot of people look at it, they think it's glass or they think it's some sort of man-made item, but actually it is a gemstone like any other. And I think these bracelets that we're going to talk about here, which feature in Sunset Boulevard, which we gave our little demo of at the start. I mean, we obviously got a first take, but these feature rock crystal. And you know, something we used to talk about in some of our episodes, which we haven't done in a while, is actually the origin of the word crystal, which is a very interesting one. And I'd like to do a shout out to Fenia, our Greek counterpart, about this one, because it comes from the Greek word crystallos. And do you know what that means?
Hard stone.
Ice.
Amazing. If you've listened to our Alma Peel episode, she also uses rock crystal to look like ice in her Fabergé designs. This particular episode has had me really anxious to share with everybody the story behind the person who owned the bracelets, but also the bracelets themselves, because as Matthew's just mentioned there, rock crystal is used in these cuffs. And if you're looking at them right now, whether it's in pictures or whether you're standing in front of it, rock crystal almost looks like glass, but it's a sculpted item in this particular piece. So we've got 2 cuffs, and from far away, these bracelets, they look like they're a pair. They look like they're identical, but when you look closer at them, they're actually 2 different designs. And all of the intricacies of the design is just so clever. Curved half discs that wrap around the wrist with really gorgeous platinum settings, which add and not take away from the rock crystal. So they work in perfect harmony together. And then each of these discs is actually then additional embellishments added to it with pave set diamonds. Whilst the other one, which is not exactly identical, features more of like a diamond framed rock crystal, which spotlights more of the rock crystal material rather than the diamonds that you see in the other one. So it's kind of like a really beautiful kind of yin and yang in bracelets that match, but they're sisters, not twins.
Yeah, if you looked at these your first time from a distance, as you said, you would definitely think they are the same. But the closer you examine them, you can see there's differences. Looking at these pieces, they kind of almost foreshadow one of your favorite designers' work. The thing that strikes me about them is like their volume. they're not flat. They're
They're bulbous, almost like the Bombay shape that you see in rings from more of like the early 1930s.
and that's really what Belle Perron was about. But what these bangles are about is the volume and the three-dimensional nature of them. I can only imagine actually wearing two of them at the same time. You would have really noticed on your wrist. Well-made jewelry is seamless, but it's just the volume of these was quite impressive.
Volume, yes, but also I always look at pieces like this and think about wearability. How are these pieces, how do they come on and how do they go off of the body? And how comfortable are they to wear? Now, Cartier creating these particular bracelets actually created them with a coiled spring wire mechanism on the inside, which meant that you didn't have a clip to take these particular bracelets on and off. They expanded and then came back onto the wrist
So
once
think about
it was
trying
on.
to do that flexibility with
It's
rock
incredible.
and metal.
It's incredible. And also, this is before plastic was actually an item that was created. So today we would probably look at something like this and think, oh, you could probably make this out of plastic. Plastic being a simulant that could be used to look like rock crystal as well. But this predates plastics. So it's a real amazing treasure. But more importantly, it's the design of these particular bracelets that really stand out. And as Matthew said, the foreshadow of Susan Belle Perron, who is one of the greatest female jewelry designers to ever exist. But Cartier created these in the 1930s, and this was kind of a step away from the very geometric patterns that we see from the Art Deco period. And if you look at some of the designs that then go on after that by Susan Belle Perron, you can tell that there is definitely some parallels between their design and her later designs, which were done for Boivin.
They actually made one previous to that as well in 1929 that they sold to the Polish opera singer, another very successful female talent at the time, Gana Walska. But these two were slightly later, but in the very similar same vein of it. Now, I thought quite interesting. Remember we did an episode, God, it must be season 3 or 4, about female jewelry designers, and Jean Toussaint was one of them. These are actually her design, these bangles. She was Cartier creative director for all through the 30s and 40s. And, huge influence. And these are part of her design as well.
Trendsetters, both of them, Susan Belle Perron and Jean Toussaint, both of these women in France, French ladies, very well acquainted with all of the fashionistas of the period. But one fashionista in particular, and businesswoman, entrepreneur, silent picture star, model, ended up owning these bracelets. And her name was Gloria Swanson.
Yeah, and we gave a quick excerpt at the very start of this episode of one of our most famous movies, which was Sunset Boulevard. But I think one of the most iconic shots of them was from A Perfect Understanding, which was a silent movie. And, she's one of the few actresses who actually managed to make the jump from silent pictures to talkies, I believe that's what they call them. But she was a really interesting character, as you said, Elise. Born in 1899 in Chicago, a lot more than just a pretty face for the film industry. Very savvy businesswoman, set up her own production company in 1926 after over a decade in the film industry. She wanted a bigger share of the pie, so that's what she did. And she, we like to think in a lot of ways that, self-purchasing jewelry is a more modern thing for women, but it's actually, these ladies were way ahead of the time in that sense. And they're not just Gloria Swanson, but Gloria Swanson, Marlene Dietrich, Mary Pickford, Joan Crawford, all purchased incredible jewelry at this time. And Gloria Swanson also purchased incredible clothing as well. In fact, part of her contract, Elise, was that she had to maintain public glamour. That was in her contract, had to maintain that. So in 1924, her wardrobe spending consisted of 5,000 on shoes, silk stockings for 9,600 at the time, perfume for 6,000, headdresses 5,000, purses 5,000, lingerie 10,000, wraps 10,000, furs 25,000, and gowns 50,000 in 1924.
Sounds exactly where I would want to be in 1924.
Yeah, and that's not even her
Wrapped
jewelry.
in fur with buckets of lingerie and bathing in perfume, like the queen that she was.
She was, and she bought a lot of jewelry too, but she had to keep accessorizing so often that she also rented a lot of jewelry at 10% of the cost. And one year she spent 500 grand renting jewelry.
If you would like to kind of understand her as a person more, I would tell you to go and have a look at some of the old interviews that she's done online, especially like those that were done in like the 70s, where she shows up in like her caftans. And there's one particular interview where the host says to her, "Come dressed as if you were like you dressed in the 1920s," and she shows up in her ensembles from the 20s, and she's fully kitted out in it. She looks incredible. Even at an older age, her beauty never ever fades, but neither does her attitude. And this is what I really, really love about her.
What is a kaftan?
A kaftan is almost like a poncho, like that you wear to when you go to a concert, Matthew, and you have like, it starts raining and you have those rain ponchos on. The rain ponchos.
With a hood, usually.
Yes.
Okay.
It has no hood and it's made out of like a luxurious material. You'll see like a lot of women in France wearing them when they're on holidays, like as a beach cover up. But her most iconic role, her most iconic character that she ever played, and of course, which earned her a Golden Globe Award, was her portrayal of Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard, which was a movie that was released in 1950. It almost runs parallel to her as a person anyway, right? So it's very, very close. Now, in it, she is a forgotten silent film actress, and she's struggling to accept that she is no longer coveted and wanted and desired. And so she's trying to revive her career, basically. In this final attempt to revive her film career, she is portrayed going to directors that she once knew and throwing herself upon them and going, "Please, please, I need work," and then making outrageous demands like, "I only work till 4 and I need my servants," and all of this kind of stuff. It's amazing. But she also has the most incredible wardrobe that you could ever imagine. And it is always paired. It's like these particular bracelets, these cuffs, are a part of her persona. We see these cuff bangles in the film, specifically when she's wearing this iconic cuff and headpiece with like a black ensemble. This was created and designed by Edith Head. It has ermine fur and it's black through the front of the piece, and then she has like white trimming in a white fascinator with a single peacock feather on it. And she's wearing the diamond cuffs here, and she's basically saying to the director, "Please, please, but I only work until this time." And it's hilarious, but the cuffs, she puts her hand up so many times that you see the glittering from the diamonds on her cuffs. Also, she has these cuffs on in nearly all of her publicity stills and also movie posters. So on the Sunset Boulevard movie poster, she can be seen with the 2 diamond cuffs on for advertising. You can also see her wearing the same cuffs for the publicity still from 1933 film Perfect Understanding, and she's wearing them on both hands. So they become a part of her. When I see these cuffs now, even if somebody else that was very, very famous purchased these and wore them, they would still be Gloria Swanson's cuffs.
That's all for this episode of Gem Pursuit. Thank you very much, Elise, for today.
Thank you, Matthew. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope you enjoyed.
If you do happen to visit the Cartier exhibition at the V&A, give us a shout and let us know how you got on and what you thought of it. We would love to hear from you. One of the best ways to get us is our email, experts@courtville.ie. This episode was produced by Ross Hannon of Tape Deck, with project management and research by Veronique Gogan and Fenia Segudi. From myself, Matthew Weldon, thanks again for joining us. It's goodbye for now, and I'll chat you next time.